All right, everybody, welcome to another very, very impressive layout tour. We are with Mr. Frank Pastore and his Allegheny Central HO scale layout. It fills his entire basement. And as usual, we're going to start off. We're going to let Frank explain, describe the layout a little bit. Then we'll do a tour of the layout from west to east, or east to west, whatever makes the most sense for Frank. And then go back and get some nice detail scenes, and maybe if we're lucky, see a train running. But I don't push my luck, but maybe we'll see.
We'll run a coal train for sure, Ron.
All right, so Frank, why don't you start off and just give us a little bit of an overview of the layout?
Sure. Okay. The layout started in 2003. I was still working at the time, and it took me 4 years before I felt I was ready to run my first train. I just purchased Digitrax wireless controller, and I had a couple engines. I put some decoders in it, and we started running the layout. Didn't do too much on it for the first couple of years after that, just basically ran them by myself. And then, I guess it was around 2013, something like that, about 10 years into the layout build, I started inviting guys over to come and see the layout. And they said, geez, this is a nice layout. Do you think we could run some trains on it? I said, sure. So they brought their Digitrax throttle, and I let them bring their own engine and a caboose if they wanted, and we started doing switching operations. And that worked out so well, we started on an every other Tuesday night format with 2 to 4 guys. It eventually morphed into 9 guys coming up here every Tuesday night. And we run trains in, I call it 2 sessions. What do I mean by that? First session lasts about an hour and a half. I take a mandatory break in the crew lounge. Everybody sit, rest, get some coffee, get some bottled water, soft drinks, some snacks, shoot the bull for a while, and then we run, I call it the PM session in the afternoon.
Okay, perfect, yeah.
And we run the second session, which lasts about an hour and a half. So we run about 3 hours total, okay? And we've had a great time with that now since, like I say, the 2015, 14, somewhere around there. And then COVID hit, okay? And when COVID hit, obviously we stopped operations. And I got an email back in back in April of 2021. The guys were having withdrawal. We hadn't run since March of 2020. It was our last section, March 4th. So about almost a year and a month. So I said, okay, let's go back to operating. So they came by and we started operating. We had such a good time that rather than every other week for operations, we went every week without fail, and we just had a ball. So we operate up until the end of May. Okay, now the weather's better in Western New York. Everybody wants to get outside with friends and family.
Don't have a long period to enjoy the nice weather.
Absolutely, So cookout time and so on here. So we'll start back up in the fall, usually the last week of September, and we'll go again through till next May, the following May next year here. So that's what really got me going on the hobby here. Been a lone wolf for many years before that, but once I started the operations, it kind of pushed me to show some progress on the layout, a little bit more scenery, maybe another industry to switch. And as you're going to see from the layout tour today, it blossomed into many, many pieces of the railroad being built in the last 5 to 10 years because the guys liked operating on it, and I wanted to make it interesting for them.
Awesome. All right, so we'll take a quick pause, and then we'll go to whatever makes the most sense, east end, west end, and then we'll walk around the layout and get a tour from Frank.
All right.
All right, Frank, take us away.
Okay, we're standing at the east end of my layout. It's called Easton for a good reason, the eastern end of the layout. Started out as just a small little, I guess you call it staging yard, okay? Well, a staging yard isn't too interesting to look at, so I started adding some buildings, some warehouses, which I'm really fond of, plastic warehouses, building flats. It gives the guys something to operate on, and we added a small town off to the left, and this is the start of the eastern end of the railroad. So my railroad runs from Easton on the east end all the way to the west end, which we call Westburg. Okay, very simple for my operators to understand east from west and so on. This particular staging yard is all code 83. It's on cork roadbed with 1/2-inch plywood underneath it. And because it's a shelf railroad in most spots, I use 1x2 for construction with gussets hooking it back to the studded wall behind it. So it works very well. I'm never going to stand on my railroad, so 1x2s and gussets on a 45-degree angle are plenty strong to hold your railroad. So this is where a lot of the operations start. You can see I have a card system here that we employ. And this will keep one operator going because there's several industries here to switch, plus making up blocking trains that'll head westbound on the rest of the railroad.
And your prototype area that you model, Frank?
Generally West Virginia, as you're going to see, we go through the hilly Appalachian area, and this is flat country here, but you can see West Virginia and a little bit of Virginia. This represents the eastern end, so if we have trains that terminate here, basically they're going to be considered offline. So for example, you could be going to someplace in Virginia, that would be an offline type industry and so on. And the cards will tell you that. When you get to this here, it'll say offline going wherever to the East Coast and so on.
Yep.
So for example, if I had a coal train, loaded coal train would come here, it'd be tide coal heading to the East Coast.
Okay, yeah,
for
makes
going
sense.
on a ship.
Yep.
Okay?
All right. Okay.
Okay, now we're in Fairmont, West Virginia. There is a real Fairmont, West Virginia, but I actually named it after a street I used to live on years ago. And Fairmont, West Virginia is my main yard on the layout. This particular yard is the oldest portion of the layout. It's code 100 Atlas track, flex track, with number 6 turnouts on the main line and crossovers, and number 4 in the yard. Of course, that was started many years ago, as I said, back in 2003. If I had to do it over again, it'd probably be all code 83, but I would actually ask people to spot the difference between code 83 and code 100. Once you paint it and ballast, it's very, very difficult to determine.
Yep.
You can see again, my kind of design here is a large industrial buildings here. I have the Mack truck plant, actually plant 1 and plant 2, as well as some other interesting industries in the food and beverage line. I was in that line of work when I was working, so I enjoy looking at those type of buildings and so on. I want the buildings to dwarf the railroad, okay?
Yeah.
Now I run, as you can see, primarily 40 and 50-foot cars in my era, which is basically 1955 to 1965. I got to tell you a funny story though. I have a lot of visitors come see my railroad that are non-model railroaders. I belong to a classic car club, and I had them over to see the railroad after a barbecue. And the next day I spotted a Ford Taurus on my layout. Where the heck did that come from? Because I model 55 to 65.
Right, yeah.
And one of the guys slipped a Ford Taurus onto one of my streets on
He
the
slipped
layout.
you a Mickey.
And they got a big kick out of that. So
Yeah.
it turned out to be a lot of fun here. So it's a great hobby. I really, really enjoy it. As you're going to see from the rest of the video, I've added on quite a bit in the last 10 years as we became more proficient in operations.
Okay. Okay.
All right, what we're looking at now is the west end of Fairmont. You can see the shops, the Fairmont shops. I built that probably back in 1985 or so. And the Pillsbury plant behind it, probably not prototypical with a plant that close to the shops, but it is what it is. And way in the back you'll see our power plant. Power plant was originally built as a complete kit with 4 walls, but since I like so much to do building flats, I cut the building in half and opened it up to make a large building flat on the back of it. That's why you see decals of the name on both sides. So during operations, we'll switch loaded coal cars to the power plant, pick up the empties, and then that lucky guy running that train gets to run the whole layout to the far end, which is probably 200 plus feet away, to drop the empties at the 2 coal mines number 7 and number 3, which we'll see later. And if we're looking at right now to the left here, you'll see that that's actually a Y, that you can see the branches going to the left and right, and the far track going left-right is the other branch of the Y here. So when we run operations, our trains will come in this part of the layout from the northwest and the southwest, and there's a key turnout at the back of the layout near the power plant where we allow the tower man to let the train come in from the southwest or the southeast, and that's controlled by a tortoise switch machine.
You had mentioned, Frank, you don't have many tortoises on the layout.
I have a total of only 14 tortoises on the entire layout. As we go around the sea layout, most are ground throws because the layout is a shelf that's no deeper than most sections are 18 to 24 inches. So very much within reach to reach the ground throws. And I've got 5 push-to-pull sections as well where you can switch a turnout where the turnout's behind a building. And it's a little easier to reach.
Yeah, I just think it's so much easier now.
Yes.
Almost everything is tortoise on my layout. But if I could do it again, if you can reach it.
Yeah, if you can reach it.
And it's not supposed to be a mainline dispatcher throw. Make it a hand throw.
It's a KISS principle too.
Exactly.
Right? Okay,
exactly.
It makes it a lot easier. It's very intuitive. My switches are set up so if the switches flip to the up position on the double pull, double throw, it's going to the main line. If it's in the down, it's the diverging route. All right, but still, operator errors once in a while.
Sure.
You got to double check it by looking at it physically.
Right. Awesome. Okay. All right, go ahead, Frank.
Well, in this particular spot, you can see that we're modeling the rolling Appalachian hillside. And I can't take credit for this. I actually got the idea from watching Jim Herzog's videos of his Shamokin Road that he models. And basically it's woodland scenics clump foliage that you purchase in different shades of green. Obviously light green and medium green are the 2 general colors with a sprinkling of the dark green as well. The format I used when I first started the layout was cardboard strips in a lattice type of formation with plaster gauze over that, painted then green, and then of course the ground foam and foliage go on top of that. So it makes for a nice looking scene. My only regret, I told Rob I wish I'd made him a little taller, but so be it.
That can be part of the future.
Yeah, it can be part
always
of the
something
future.
to do.
Yeah.
So now where we are now, Frank.
Yes.
The other side, I'm going to put my finger here. The other side of the divider here is where we just were in the yard.
Yeah.
So where we are here, and my big ass finger will stick, that's where we were. The last scene with the Y is right on the other side.
Correct.
So this is part of the Y comes here, under the bridge, and then the other part of the Y comes through here. So then your tracks come in again, as you mentioned, on 2 different elevations.
Right. It's about a 1.5 to 1.7% grade.
Gotcha. Okay. Yep.
Okay. And it works out pretty well. We pull trains anywhere between 10 and 15 cars. If you exceed that limit, then you better put a helper on the rear end.
Gotcha.
Because you're going around a curve. At the same time, you're going up the elevation there. So.
Awesome. Okay. All right.
Okay, we've just left the workshop area of the layout in Waverly, and now we're on the Big Tree area of the layout, which it looks like the tunnel goes for a long distance. It's only about a foot deep on this side of the basement wall as opposed to the other side as well here. Again, you'll see a lot more foliage here. Backdrop is masonite painted blue with some sprinkling of clouds I painted using stencils many years ago. At this particular section of the layout, the elevation is approximately 53 inches high on the upper level and about 48 on the lower level, which gives me the definition I was looking for going underneath the bridge and going through the tunnels, which was pretty typical, obviously, in West Virginia and parts of Appalachia.
All right. We'll talk about the first peninsula here.
Yeah, now, as you're going to see here through the tour here, I have several peninsulas on the layout. This one's an interesting one. It's approximately 3 feet wide by 8 feet long, and it juts out perpendicular to the main line. The reason is I used to have a billiard table in the main part of the room, and
which is still here,
which
right?
Is still
right here. Here
right.
it is. It's still there, folks.
Still there. We slid underneath the bottom of the layout, soon to be removed, I hoped, and go to my son's house. So I wanted to build a couple more industries for our operators to operate, and all we got left to do really now is pour the water, the Envirotex, and probably put a pipe going down there from the sewage from the plant dumping right into that.
Oh, the EPA will love that. Yeah.
But again, I modeled the 50s, so...
What EPA?
What EPA, right, exactly. So I've got 2 large buildings on this layout. One was the paper mill that's from Walters that I'm modifying. And you can see I've added interior lights. And the other one on the other side is the DPM section walls that you put together. and actually they're joint companies. It's the same company with two buildings, and my next goal is to do a bridge work across the two buildings to house, what do you call it, to put piping on it.
Ah, yes,
Pipe bridge.
okay, yep,
In fact, I already have the pipe bridge built, I just haven't mounted the piping on it yet.
Nice, okay.
Okay?
Okay,
Okay, we're looking at the other side of the Durham company, the second building, as I mentioned, that was built from DPM sections. And you can see I've also lit this building using a combination of LEDs. The town that this building is in, the Durham company, the two buildings, is actually called McClellan, after Alan McClellan. When I saw his layout tours in RMC back in 77, 78, that's what inspired me to build Appalachian model railroads. I just fell in love with his design, going through the hills and the valleys, and I try to duplicate that on my
nice.
home railroad.
Got it, yep, yep. So the main line continues along the back there.
Main line is in the back,
Yep.
actually at two elevations.
Yep.
The upper where the bridge is and the lower in the front. We are always facing north when you're looking at the layout, with west to your left and east to your right.
Gotcha.
And the track closest to you in the front, the lower front, is on the south end, as we call it.
Yep.
Okay? And now we're looking at Smithville. This was the first peninsula I added in 2016 after the main layout was built. Again, gave me more opportunity to switch some more industries here. So we have United Corporation and Acme Warehouse. And again, you can see I've added a lot of interior lighting to these buildings using LEDs.
Looks great, yep.
I have a very unique method. Maybe I can show Rob later how we put the lights in the buildings.
Okay.
This is a good shot of the Acme Warehouse. You can see a couple of Acme trucks out front. And again, I put interiors in with fork trucks and some crates inside and so on. And I found out when you're lighting a building, you don't have to light every window. Okay, I got about every other one either pointing downward to the second floor and first floor or upward to the third floor, just to give it an illusion that there's some kind of activity going on.
Yep.
And then the rest of it's a city scene in the background. We call this Smithville. And again, this is one of the smaller little aisles. It's about 3.5 feet wide, but still plenty of room for one operator to get in there and switch those industries. They have a long passing siding off of the main line that'll hold about 18 cars. So plenty of room for him to switch the 5 different industries that are in Smithville. There's a team track here, there's a coal dump here, and there's Smithville printing. So a lot of activity for one guy.
Okay, we continue over. Now, is this the main line coming here? Okay.
This is the main line here in the front track. Is
Yep.
the main line here
Yep.
on the south side of the, as I call it, and then in the back you'll see the upper main line. And as we get around to the other part of the layout around this peninsula, those join up as well and form another Y.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay. We don't mind going around the peninsulas when we're operating because everybody has a walk-around throttle, so it makes it convenient to follow your train. And being the superintendent at the op sections, I set up any of the meets here so that the one holds on one leg of the Y, while the other's got permission to either go on the main line or enter the yards.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right, go ahead, Frank.
Okay, we're now looking at the west end of the yard as we're coming into Westburg. And if you look at your right, you'll see a tunnel portal that leads off to the right. Okay, and obviously the track that goes off to the left joins the other part of the Y, which is at the backdrop. Okay, I should point out that these mountains were made at the workbench. They're actually pink styrofoam, beveled to about 1.5 inches in thickness or less at the top, and then obviously put on the clump foliage. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's pretty realistic, and you can see some rock castings in there as well. So I'm happy with that. You can also see the grades that I built into it. And everybody says, "Well, wow, this must be West Virginia because it's got a lot of curvy type roads.
Yeah.
Not a lot of straight track." And you can see it even drops off the main line. You can see the sloping of the hills and so on. So
yeah.
it's been a lot of fun to build. A lot of fun.
Okay, go ahead, Frank.
Okay, at the very rear, you might see a button that's yellow in color, and it says push in for northeast or pull out for southeast. That's a fast track I guess you call it lever type of control for a turnout that's behind that little brick building there. And it's obvious you can't see it, so it allows the operator to know which position he's in. So if he pushes it in, he's going northeast. If he pulls it out, he's heading southwest toward us where the camera is located, or southeast, I should say. And there's another small little engine facility run by the Allegheny Central on the left with the smokestack and those two cabooses there as we enter Westburg Yard. Now, Westburg was originally the last part of the layout that was going to be built, but like everybody else, if you got more land, you just keep on going. So I kept going westward for more additional switching.
Okay.
This will give you a good view of the Westburg Yard. It's a 5-track yard. The 6th track turned into a passing track that goes around to the left. It's on the cinders, so I have a long main line track and a long passing track. Again, will hold about 18 cars. Several more building flats you see. We've added some industry names as well here and so on. So the operator here, he has usually instructions to take a train eastbound or maybe to block a train that will go further west. So he has a couple options, okay, as to what he can do here. And the card system that we use tells the operator basically if these are going eastbound, the industries might say the 800 grouping of industry. So 800, 801, 802, 803, he knows that's westbound. If it's 90, 91, 92, 93, he knows that's an eastbound train. So he doesn't really have to read the entire card, just the 3-digit number that we produce in the card. Maybe we can show you that a little later.
Okay, yeah, makes sense, yep. So from here, the expansion goes
around the corner
this
to the
way.
left.
Yes, okay, we're going that
correct.
way. All right, folks, we're going to continue around to the left. Okay.
Okay, we're looking at Black Rock, which is just off the west end of the Westburg staging yard. And there's some pretty good sized industries here. American Hardware Supply's got 2 buildings. And I should point out that the lights in both buildings are the same LED lights. Some I painted yellow, some I left their natural color. It gives it more of a bluish tint. But, I don't know, it just worked out for me. I'm going to leave it that way and so on here. And then to our left here, you may notice there's actually a bifold door behind Certainty Industries there. And that's where we store our Christmas decorations. So that's a removable piece, that part of the layout, just like if you had a leaf on your kitchen table. So the fascia comes off, the layout section comes off, the leaf if you like, and the backdrop is held up by 2 finishing nails here. So I can get that out of there in about 5 minutes. My wife gets her decorations out for the holidays around November, end of November, and we put the layout back together, and then end of January we put it back together.
Do it again,
put all the decorations back in.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at a return loop, because when you're building a layout like this and it's point to point, you get kind of tired of moving your engine to the other end of the train. So in 2011, I built a large return loop, and I put a backdrop up the middle of it just to break the scene up. And as you're going to see, we have one small industry on this side. As we go around to the other side of the layout, you're going to see my large coal mine that I have on the other side of the backdrop.
So it kind of loops here, around, and then back into the yard here.
Exactly.
So
it loops around, and of course we had to have the digital circuitry to do that electronically, because on DCC there's a 26-inch mainline track and a 24-inch passing track, radius passing track.
Okay, Frank.
Okay, we're now looking at Blue Ridge Mine number 7. It's a basic Walters kit that I've slightly kit bashed. You can see I've added some interior lights that you're going to see when we look around the other side. And I copied Chuck Diljack and I put a power plant on the far side of the building. And it added some interior lights and exterior lights here just to give the operators something to visually see when they're switching the trains out. It holds approximately 16 coal cars. And what we'll do during an operating session, the empties will come from Easton or Fairmont all around the whole layout. Drop off the empties, pick up the full loads, and take those eastbound to either Easton for Tide Coal or Fairmont Yard and to the power plant.
Okay.
And then one of my newer additions in 2019, I'm adding a small staging yard for coal trains, I guess you'd say. that will hold approximately 25 cars, and I'm going to build a kit bash, a little mine over the top of those 3 tracks there, and that's coal mine number 3. Again, those trains all head, again, eastbound with loads, westbound with empties to fill up at the mine again.
So here's a view of the, what was the coal mine again? I should better read it. The
Yeah,
Blue Ridge
Blue Ridge
Company.
Coal Mine number 7.
Number 7, got it. Okay.
Number 7 and number 3, the town's called Colville. And you can see off to the left here, I'm going to be adding a small little mining town.
Oh, yeah,
I have some stand-in buildings in there right now. I'll probably use those small little wooden kits that they make that are 1 story with a little porch. But for right now,
For now, it's
those
good.
will work.
Right, gotcha.
Okay.
Yep. And this branch then comes off the loop.
Exactly.
Right here. Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So it's kind of unique because sometimes we could have 2 trains, one dropping off empties at one mine and the other one picking up loads at the other mine. It makes for an interesting scene.
Yeah, cool. All right.
Okay, we're now looking at the addition of a branch line that goes south to Bluefield, West Virginia. And because it crosses a doorway, I had to add a 4-foot wide gate. And as you can see there, it's got 2 small bridges on it. Those are some old Valmer bridges that have probably been around since 1980. I've had them a long time. And it's all wired up so that you have continuous power going across. And it's up to the operators during an operating session to make sure the gate is in position if they're crossing the bridge, or the gate is open when nobody's on the bridge at all. And to date, since 2017, knock on wood, we haven't had any problems with it so far.
And continuing down the branch here.
Okay, now we're going to be looking at the Brownlee Industries is named after one of my good friends. I don't have a table saw, I just have a chop saw, circular saw, jigsaw. So when I have long pieces of paneling or plywood that needs to be cut, I take it to my friend Mr. Brownlee, and he cuts the wood for me. So in appreciation, I took an Atlas kit and kit bashed the large building that you see on the left with the Brownlee manufacturing lettering on it, and I named it after him. So
nice. Yep.
it gives me a spot to switch inside a building and several spots outside the building with a small office on the right-hand corner. Also give you an idea, you can see my card systems, which are along the front of the fascia for the layout. This particular section, Bluefield, was 20 feet in length when I started. Now it's around the corner, it's now 28 feet in length because I added some more industries as well here. And it's a work in progress. I got 2 General Mills plants you can see that are under construction as well.
I'm going to walk in front of the camera here, folks, just to get over here so I can continue the loop here.
Okay.
All right.
And as Rob is showing you right now, we're continuing around the rest of the Bluefield end of the layout. It includes a building flat that's actually a paper building that I purchased from Trackside Sceneries. I call it Bluefield Industries. There's Heritage Furniture there, which is a kit bash from a Walters kit. And in the front, I believe that's the Thomas Edison building I call Anchor Company. So again, 3 more industries, and it ends right there right now with a mirror underneath that bridge. Soon to be replaced with an extension of another 13 feet of staging track to the right.
Yep, he was just telling us before we started the video that, oh, by the way, guys, as soon as you leave, he's going to start the expansion across here. And just real quick, what are you going to do right in that little nook there for your wife?
In that nook, my wife always wanted a city scene that showed a small park setting, maybe with a gazebo in the middle. We have a gazebo in our backyard. So I said, okay, no problem. I will build you a city scene, probably on a hollow corridor, approximately 2 feet wide, approximately 5.5 feet in length. It'll fill that void, and I'll completely wire it and hook up all the building lights and all the street lights and all the vehicles. So that's my project for this winter coming up, to build her the city scene with the park setting.
Nice.
And it allows me to run 3 trains into staging and 3 out of staging over a 3-hour operating session.
And that'll be the Norfolk and Western you mentioned.
That is a Norfolk and Western interchange yard, yes.
Okay.
Because I really like Norfolk and Western as well as the C&O as far as prototype railroads to go along with my home layout to Allegheny Central.
Some more expansion coming, folks.
Yeah, last one, as I promised all my...
Oh, we've heard that before. So as the folks that follow the channel know, I have my own swing gate that works fairly well. Got a couple things I need to work on, but Frank's is very similar, has an ingenious thing he's done that I'm probably going to copy. But Frank, why don't you just real quickly show us the swing gate, how she works?
Sure. The swing gate is 4 feet long. It's made out of 1x3s. And it was just going to be a temporary type thing. I wasn't going to get too fancy on this gate. Just 1x3s with a piece of plywood on the top to lay the track on it. Well, then I had a couple of Valmer bridges that I used on my previous layout, so I decided to employ those on the layout, and they work out pretty nice. And I've got some water here, which is just nothing more than a piece of plexiglass.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
With a little Mod Podge on it, and you can see the gate swings open.
You hit the camera? Yeah, we cleared it.
So, and it allows me access to the eastern part of the layout and the 3.5 foot wide doorway as well. And what Rob was talking about is over here, because of humidity changes during the winter and the summer, I had to come up with a method that I could adjust the track elevation. So I've got 2 carriage bolts, and what do they call those things? The T-nuts that they're threaded into. So if you have to adjust it a fraction of an inch, 32nd of an inch or so to get the tracks to line up from the bridge to the main line, it works out very, very well. We haven't had a problem with lateral movement, but just in case I have a door stop and a carriage bolt, in case I had to adjust it left-right.
You're left-right, yeah.
And as I found out for the last 4 years of running the layout, usually in the spring or the summer, once the air conditioner goes on and once the heat goes on. So a couple times a year, you might have to adjust it. But other than that, we run our fingers across the rail, and it works very, very nicely. Okay, and what I mean by that is I can then run my fingers across the top of the rail, and as long as it feels flush, I'm in good shape, and it allows the operator to bring his train onto the branch, 28 feet long, soon to be expanded by another 13 feet. So that keeps an operator or operators going pretty much all night long out of a 3-hour
Now, will he bring his train out of one of the yards to come here, then go up the branch, and then be in the branch? Basically the whole session.
Right, the way the operation works is basically if a train was made up in Westburg, it'll say it's going to travel toward Bluefield. He'll have an entire train that he's dropping off cars at all the industries. Another guy's picking up, doing all the pickups, and he's going westbound as well. So usually 2 to 3 trains will run in a session on and off that section of the layout.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah.
So when you adjust them, it'll just kind of push your sub-road bed up just enough to get those rails
I should point out here to you, this is good for you here, to know that this is not fixed to the bottom. It's floats. Okay? So the adjustment here doesn't affect it. It's not cemented down. So when I adjust those 2 screws, the whole thing can come up and down, including the sidewalls. All right? Because you just need a little bit.
Just enough.
And you don't want to go too much or you're going to have a peak on it. So you got to raise them up so it's even, so no peak. It works out great.
Nice. Very, very clever.
I should say I can't take credit for that. My good friend Mitch came up with that scheme.
Good scheme, though. Like I said,
I copied it from his layout.
Yeah, very good. Awesome. Okay, here's the schematic of the layout, and Frank's going to give you a brief overview of how the layout works together.
Okay, we're going to start on the east end, which, as I've said before, is Easton. That's our east end staging. And we're going to go along. The next area we hit is Fairmont Yard. And then you notice it splits and goes 2 directions. It goes northwest or southwest. Okay, 2 parallel routes at different elevations. And off of the southwest route, I also have the Bluefield branch, which is 28 feet in length, that runs through my crew lounge.
That's where you get the swing gate.
That's where you can see the swing gate to go across. That would represent the swing gate right there. And then on the other end, the Ys join up again. The 2 branches of the Y join up, so we come from the north or the south. We're still heading westbound. And this circle here represents my reverse loop, which is where my 2 coal mines are. And you can see there's 1 coal mine on the loop and then 1 off of the loop.
That's the recent addition, right?
That's the recent addition, yes. That was added in 2020.
Perfect.
And as I told Rob earlier, we're going to be adding 1 more addition to the railroad. We're going to extend Bluefield to the N&W interchange yard, which will be 3 tracks, approximately 13 feet in length, to add hopefully a couple of trains going out, a couple coming back, up to 3 trains going out during the session and 3 trains returning. So 6 more trains of about 12 to 15 cars. So give us a little bit more operation during the 3-hour operating session.
Nice. Awesome. So here's a little more detailed scenes back on where we started. This is in Easton, so this is the east end of the layout. Just a little more overview, a little closer in than I was when we were walking around with Frank.
It's really worth seeing. It's in West, but it's just off 79. Now we're running a train from West Virginia coal.
Yep.
So from Easton, we come through here on the furnace, and now we are in Fairmont. Very nice. You got great industries here. This would be a real fun layout to operate. Some of the interior details, all those buildings look really nicely lit. Interior details, love it. Good old Buffalo Creek car.
Pretty much, yeah. I like blue box cars, and I bought them either undecorated.
That's for Steven. There's Mac Trucks. He works for a dealer, and he repairs. He's a now diesel mechanic. He repairs Volvo and Mac Trucks. So I'll make sure I show this to Steve. All right, continuing down the Mac plant. Gotta love the Bulldog. And this heads into West Fairmont. Let me go a little bit closer, get a better view. Coming around the curve there, to West Fairmont.
They're identical engines, they should all be.
Apologize for the light here, guys. I'm trying to crank the ISO on this. Let's go a little bit back toward the first Y there. I hear a train coming. Alright, so bear with me, folks. I went off the tripod here to be able to show a little bit better. So this might be a little bit shaky. I do apologize. Trying to adjust a little f-stop a little bit. This is the Y that he mentioned. We just saw that train head back into the main portion of the layout. Oops, sorry, I can apologize. We're going free form here. There's the power plant. This is the Pillsbury. That's me, the Pillsbury Doughboy. And then we'll do a quick look back down into West Fairmont. Nice shop building there. Little drone action here. Alright, let me get the back of the tripod, get a little more stable. So he's going to go back around where we just were and come around the Y, so we'll get him coming through the Y here. Let his cabin go by.
Now, how can you get him up to here?
So we should come here, and we'll throw that train out. And you skip the yard, and you come right here, and this is always yellow, because it's the virgin wood, but it's usually a Oh, these are choices. Oh, this one here?
Yeah.
This is one of those fast tracks. It's on linkage type thing. Okay. We'll be coming around the bend. Now we're going to test to see how clean my track is. Good. It's strong enough, and it's all wired with those, what do you call it, the suitcase connectors.
What do you have on top? Wire. Just have this down in the wire. Okay. This one just would work for it. Would work for it. And you're sitting right on their property.
I like a little bit of an elevation change with the court issue. Just enough.
So you can write, I'll be fine, I gotta think about it. You should go back and see this guy, say, okay, why not these, it was in Junction, and I thought, like this little HO and 3 thing, it was a little bit around Southern 2 and you turn that thing on and
What's the best software to use to do blah, blah, blah? If you know more software, you're using the software because you're all using it. So if you know,
so you started this in 2005 or